The Lunchroom Confession. It started with a compliment. Well, I meant it as a compliment, but the way it came out sounded more like an accusation. The lunchroom was its usual chaotic self, buzzing with the midday hum of office life, as I tried to work my way through a turkey sandwich while pretending to read emails. I'd been told I needed to be more outgoing, so during our company's recent wellness workshop, they'd handed out a little booklet titled Cheat Sheets for Confident Conversations. I'd skimmed it on the bus. The first page said, "Start with a compliment. People love hearing about themselves." Easy enough. But then there was the follow-up, ask open-ended questions to keep the conversation flowing. Oh, right, open-ended questions. So when I saw Sarah, our project manager, pouring herself a coffee across from me, the thought occurred. She'd been unusually quiet lately, and I'd noticed her staring at her phone during yesterday's team huddle. I decided to go with, "Hey Sarah, you look like you've got a million things on your plate right now. That phone must be your lifeline." It was a compliment? I'm still not sure. She paused mid-pour, her eyes narrowing slightly. The milk splashed a little. Then she said, "Thanks, but I'd rather it be my lifeline." And with that, she walked away without finishing her coffee. I stood there, sandwich halfway to my mouth, feeling like the fool who accidentally set off the fire alarm. That's when the prayer thing kicked in. Okay, not exactly a prayer, more like a mantra from a sermon I'd heard about being kind even when life hands you lemons. So I told myself, choose mercy. Easy for me to say, right? I'd been replaying that moment all morning. The rest of the lunch break was a blur of awkward glances and my attempts to eat without making noise. I tried to apologize mentally, but no one seemed to notice. By the time the clock hit 1:15, I was ready to forget about it entirely when someone tapped my shoulder. It was David, our IT guy, who always wore that goofy grin and had a knack for knowing things. "You okay?" he asked, leaning against the printer. "Yeah, just having a bad day," I replied, forcing a smile. He chuckled. "I get it. I once tried to give my boss a compliment and it backfired spectacularly. Want to hear about it?" So he told me about how he'd said to his boss, "You've got such a great eye for detail, especially with those spreadsheets," only to realize halfway through that his boss hated spreadsheets. They'd ended up in a 10-minute debate about the merits of paper versus digital ledgers. I laughed, even though my stomach was still churning from Sarah. "You know," David said, wiping his hands on a napkin, "sometimes the worst part is the aftermath. You start second-guessing yourself, wondering if you ruined someone's day." He looked at me squarely. "What did you say?" I hesitated. I tried to compliment Sarah, but it came out weird. She took offense, and now I'm stuck thinking about it. David nodded. "That's the mercy part. You didn't make it worse by overthinking. You just showed up and cared enough to apologize with your actions later?" He grinned. "Or in your case, you're still overthinking. That's normal." I appreciated the pep talk, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd made a complete idiot of myself. The rest of the week was a minefield. I caught myself watching Sarah's face every time she walked by, expecting an explosion. Nothing happened. She just went about her business with that same quiet determination. On Friday, as I packed up to leave, Sarah stopped by my desk. She hesitated, then said, "Thanks for the compliment, even if it was awkward." I blinked. That hadn't been a compliment, it had been an attempt at one. "You're welcome," I replied, genuinely glad she'd said something. "I'm sorry about the coffee mess." She laughed, a warm, genuine sound, and said, "Don't worry about it. Everyone's gotta spill something sometime." And with that, she walked away, and I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. It hadn't been a disaster, it had just been an awkward learning experience. I'd chosen mercy over meltdown, and somehow, that made all the difference. So if you're ever tempted to try your hand at confident conversation starters, remember, practice makes perfect, or at least less of a fool out of yourself. Comment your take on the worst compliment you've ever given.